This is chapter 9, and we're going to start off by cropping some images. So let's go to the crop tool. It's the letter C on your keyboard, and we're going to actually change this to the width and height ratio. It doesn't quite say the same thing in the book, but at least you'll have an idea what to do here. And actually, interestingly enough, it gives us our settings that we want right there, just because I had them in here before. But just to run through this, there's actually kind of a gotcha if you're not paying attention here. Now, the crop tool, look at this. I mean, it starts you off by sizing and picking the area of the picture you want to keep. Now, we're actually going to set this up manually. So we'll give this a dimension of 500 by 500 and at a resolution of 300. Now, here's a problem. If you just plugged in a number, if you just plugged in a number and moved on to the next field, it plugged in 500 inches, not 500 pixels. Okay? And I can tell you right now that if you did this at 500 inches by 500 inches at 300 pixels per inch, when you clicked on the check mark here, bad, long time things are going to happen to you. Okay? So we're going to set this up properly. Go back over here and hit, instead of inches, we'll go to px for pixels. Same over here. I'll delete the inch and put px for pixels, and now it is groovy. Now, before we move on, we're going to size this. Now, the book just gives you a picture of what it's supposed to look like. So I'll quickly run back to the book here, and you can see, let's see, on this one, we're going to crop this down. We're going to see this tower over here a little bit, and we see a little bit of this side of the tree. Okay, so we're just going to grab the corner here and move this up a little bit. Actually, we're going to click and move this over a little bit, just about like that. And then we will grab this corner again and keep an eye on what's happening with the tree over here. And that looks pretty good. Okay, now we're going to hit the crop. We're going to hit the check mark here to crop this, and it's going to take out everything that's in the masked out area all around the perimeter here. So we'll click here, and I'm going to hit Command 0 to fit to window, and that looks pretty great. Let's move on to the next one. Actually, you know what? Save this. These are all JPEGs, by the way. And we're going to save this as something else. Save as, what does the book want us to do? It wants us to call this museum.psd. Okay, so we have to change the format. We want to change this to Photoshop document, and we'll call this museum. Awesome. And then save. Super. Moving on to the next one. Okay, again, we've got our proper settings here to start off with. That's okay. Let's take a look at the book. Exactly where, oops, hang on. But it really moved, didn't it? Okay, we want to get a very close cropping on the picture here. So we've got some trees, here, and this got a little bit of a gap between the tip there and the top of the image. Okay, if we get close, that's great. So we will crop this down. Remember to keep some of the trees here. And let's see. Well, this looks like it's about the right height. Let's just move the whole thing over a bit. Let's go back and look at this. Okay, so we're seeing that top rotunda thing there. Go back and forth. I'm just hitting Command Tab, by the way, on the Mac. It's Alt Tab on the PC. And you know what? I think we want to crop it down to this side, roughly this size here. So if I move this over a little bit more, I probably want to, let's see, how far do we go down here? Okay, so now we're looking down there. Okay, there's not much crowd happening. Okay, easy to do. We'll move this up a bit. That looks pretty good right there. Maybe a little bit centered, maybe a little bit up. I like that. Let's go with that. Okay, again, Command 0, and we will give it a name. I believe it is Capitol Building. So again, we'll do Save As, change the format to Photoshop, capitolbuilding.psd. Fantastic. Okay, next we'll do the Washington Monument. Now this one, okay, we're seeing some people over there down the bottom. We get some of the grass. We see about half that cloud and half that cloud. Okay. And kind of a big space towards the top of the Washington Monument. Alrighty. So again, we'll do 500 by 500 pixels at 300. Fantastic. And let's see. That didn't do what I wanted to do. Oh, well, no, we're good there. Okay. Why can't I move something around here? Something is messed up. Let's start from scratch. Something is definitely messed up. Okay, let's clear this. And go to a different tool, come back to crop, reset the numbers. Make sure it sets for pixels, which this did not do. There we go, 500 px, 300. Okay. Now I can move things around. So let this be a lesson to you that when something is not doing what you want it to do, what you want it to do or expect it to do, please try again. Kind of clear out what you were doing and go back. I'm going to set this roughly for half that cloud over there. Do you notice, by the way, do you notice those clouds? How they look eerily similar? You know, I've got kind of this thing across the top there and this thing across the top there. This one looks a little bit more faded. It's roughly got the same kind of structure overall. So I think whoever prepared these files for Adobe just, you know, probably had a bigger lesson in mind and then didn't follow through with that. Let's see how this looks. Let's move this over a little bit. That looks pretty close, I think. Let's go back here. I think that's great. Is it dead center? I don't even think the monument is quite dead center. But you know what? We're going to make it dead center. Okay, let's hit enter and hit Command 0 and make sure that we save this. Remember, it's a save as. If we do a save, it'll just save it as a JPEG, and that's not what we want. We will save this as Photoshop and save. As you can see, we've changed our picture here, and actually I'm going to save this. We're going to set this up. Let's see, I believe we've got to turn the snap on. We'll turn rulers on. Remember the rulers? Command R. Hello, Command R. There we go. And let's make sure snap is on. It is, and we're going to snap to everything. That's awesome. And that's pretty much it for now. Let's set up some guidelines here. We'll drag this down to the 3-inch mark. Having a little bit difficulty moving it in there. Okay, great. And then I'll move one from the left and drag this into the center just like that. Great. Now I'm going to save this. We'll do a save as. There's actually another file here called working already, so I'm just going to replace this. Working. And remember, we want to save as a Photoshop document. And do we want to replace this? Yes, we do. Great. Okay, let's see. We've done that. Now let's drag the 3 other files in here. Let's do a slightly different procedure. I've been showing you guys probably 2 up all quarter. Let's do 4 up. And this is fun because all we've got to do here is go get the move tool, letter V, and I'll just drag this over here. I'll click on this one and drag this over here. Click on this one and drag it in here. And we can close up all these other ones. We don't need them anymore. Okay, now we just need to place these in view. So let's take the well, let's relabel these. This one is the Washington Monument. So Washington Mon. So let's put this one down here. Now I like this that I can snap it to that guideline. That makes life a little bit handy. I'm also going to use my arrow tools and just shove this over just a little bit. And let's see, we'll turn auto select on and group. I'm sorry, we'll turn off group and move it to layer. So when I click on this guy, put him over here, roughly about there. And we'll pick on this one and move this one over here. Again, snapping to the edge ever so slightly. Now, oh, let's relabel these things. That one is the Capitol building, Capitol build, BLD for now. This one is museum. Great. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift click all three of these things and just make sure that they're evenly spaced out. So I'll click on this guy up here, and it actually moved the middle one over a little bit. Let's actually, now that I've got all three selected, use my arrow tools again and center that up. So now I've got even spaces here and here and here and here, and that's nice. Okay, now we're going to add some type. Now, first of all, since these guys are already selected, I'm going to organize them. Now I can click, there's actually a keyboard shortcut. There's a better keyboard shortcut that I'm going to give you. Just Command G, and that puts everything into a group. So we'll just call this wash mall. All right, now let's click on the background here and go to the type tool. There we go. Took a moment to think about it for a minute. And this is going to be greetings from, and hit enter when I'm done. And we'll change a few things, obviously. We're going to change the font to Chaparral, regular. Font size is going to be, I believe, 36. We're going to set the tracking. Now the tracking is not available here, so we have to go into our character panel. You can go to it from here or from here. There's character panel there, but we can go here as well. And we'll set our tracking. Now we can set it to 200, but that's not enough. We're going to set it to 220. So I'll type that in. And let's see what else. We want to set the color for red. So red is right there. And we're going to set this for all caps. And we're also going to set the anti-aliasing. Now there's the anti-aliasing down here. We'll set it for smooth. And that's a very tiny detail change between one and the other. If you want to, you probably have to zoom in. Let's just zoom in for just a second. Oh, must turn scrubby zoom off. I had it accidentally on. Great. And look at the edge detail here. This is sharp. And when I go to smooth, it smooths it out a little bit, especially from a distance. Don't sweat it too heavily. Here's the move tool. Just want to center this up just a little bit. And we're going to do another type layer. Typing in here, Washington, comma, D period, C period. Oops, that was not a capital letter. Let me hide this just for a moment. Oh, it was actually. C period. Enter. And we're going to change the style of this one. So we're going to go back to the character panel. And this one's going to be set back to Myriad Pro. Myriad Pro. Cool. This one's going to be bold, if I'm not mistaken. Hello, bold. Just plain old garden variety bold. Okay. And the size is going to be 48 point, which is ginormous here. But we're going to set the tracking back to 0. Much better. And we'll set the color for white. And all caps should also be set is on, and also smoothing. So we're good there. And let's hide this one. Okay, move tool. How does this look? Looks pretty good. Let's take these two layers and align them centered. Not bad at all. Okay, let's take a look at the book and see if we're doing well here. We could probably use a little bit more spacing and maybe move the greetings from up a bit. And so let's do that. Move tool. And in this case, I'll just use my arrow keys and hit shift arrow. That'll move it 10 pixels at a time. Okay. And now we're going to stylize these things with some layer styles. So we'll start off with the greetings from. And down here at the bottom there, these are my layer styles. And let's see. Greetings from gets an outer glow. So there's outer glow. And we'll set up these settings accordingly. So outer glow is set to screen, opacity is set to 40%. So we'll grab this and bring it down. There we go. I believe noise will just replace or just stay where it is. Color is going to be white, so we'll change this to white. Grab that to the corner. And the settings, let's see, spread is going to be 14%. Right there. And size is going to be 40 pixels. So it's really going to be soften out. Right there. Okay, click OK. And next we'll do Washington, D.C. Before we go do that, we need to set a color for this. So we'll set this for, well, first we'll set the right layer. And we'll set it for kind of a color red. It's a red. Well, I guess we'll just go do same old red. Right there. Notice that that doesn't change here, and that's okay. We don't want to be changed there. But we're going to be changing the layer style. We'll add a layer style called Gradient Overlay. And by default, it starts you off with the gradient there, and we're going to click on that. And what we want is this one. Now, this color is actually based on this. It's just that the striped style is what we're looking for. So we'll click on that. That's what we're looking for. Okay, and we're also going to apply a drop shadow. So we'll turn that on. And then when we click on the words, then I have the control here. So not many things to change here. We're just going to reduce the opacity to, I'm just going to type this in because it's highlighted already, 45%. And then the distance, I just hit the tab key there to move to the next field. The distance is now going to be 9. And that's it. All right. I'm a little superstitious. I'm going to save where I am right now. Maximize compatibility for work with older versions of Photoshop? Yep. Okay. Looking good. Let's see. Next, we're going to select the museum layer, which is inside the Washington Mall thing here. So we'll go to the museum layer. And we're going to do some tricks here. So I'm going to zoom into this a little bit. Okay. First of all, we're going to hit the letter D. Now that's going to change this. It's the equivalent of clicking on this guy here. Letter D, which changes you to default values. And we're going to apply a filter. So we're going to go to the filter menu, go to filter gallery, and there's lots of really great stuff here. And what we're looking for is in, I believe it's in Sketch, and going to graphic pen. Now, something seems wrong here. Why are we not getting a picture? Let's click OK. Oh, it did it anyway. Well, it worked out. That's what we wanted. But we didn't quite get the settings right. Let's back up. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that one. I didn't set a setting. So let's go back here. Filter gallery, graphic pen. Oh, actually, it was already set the way I wanted. Okay. We're good. 15 on the stroke length and 25 on the light and dark balance. So we're cool there. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to paint this whole thing in the way, and like the book even says, back in the old days when all we had was black and white photography, photographers actually faked it by painting on the print. And we can do that too. First thing I'm going to do is to put a marching ant selection on this. So I'm going to hold down the Command key and click on the layer thumbnail. Boom. So now we get marching ants. Now whatever we paint can stay directly in this box and not paint outside. Okay, so we're going to do a couple things. Let's go get the brush tool. And I want to go to a 90 pixel brush. Excuse me. So that's like, well, you know what, I can just type it in, 90. And then the hardness value is going to be 0. That's fine. Ooh, we don't have my brushes that I want. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to reset my brushes. Do I want to replace the brushes with the default brushes? I certainly do. Don't save any changes. That was something else I had going on. So I've got a circular brush here. Here we go. 90. Great. Okay, now we want to set the brush up with something else here. We want to do darken, and we're going to change the opacity setting down to like 20%. Okay, that's looking good. And the last thing we want to do is to give a sky color. So let's go pick a sky color that we can work with. I like this area. I'm going to set this to be kind of more of a robin's egg value going on there. Okay, and now all I need to do, double checking my settings here. Yep, we're looking good. Okay, so just lightly go over this. Now, you may notice that there's not much color happening here. And I don't have to worry about painting on the black because we've got this darken value set up to where it's only darkening light values. These dark values don't get painted on. So we don't have to sweat that at all. But what's really cool is that, if I believe it's this one, no, it's this one. We can build up the effect. Probably don't even need that, but what this allows us to do is to build up more of a paint, so it gets progressively darker. Every time I paint over something that I've already done, it gets progressively darker and bluer. Maybe a little bit down here too. Okay, and you know what? That sky is a little light yet. Let's saturate this a little bit more. Let's try this a little bit more. There we go. So it's building up and building up. That's kind of nice. Not bad at all. No, I accidentally painted in that little section. I'm not going to sweat that actually. Okay, let's try some other areas down here. Let's get the trees. So let's go choose a green color. So we'll go into the green zone. Kind of choose a tree value. And I believe I'm going to change some values here. The brush I'm going to reduce to 70. And the opacity of this brush we're going to change to 80%. So 80 and enter. And now just kind of paint over in this section on the trees. Now this is actually kind of painting in the gaps, but it's giving you the hint that these are actually leaves going on here. So it's really kind of a cool deception. Alrighty, let's go do some of the grass down here. Doesn't have to be really precise. Make my brush a little bit smaller here. So I'm going to go into these trees down here. And I'm not going to paint on that guy or girl. A little bit bigger there. Okay. And now let's do a dark red. So down around here maybe. And this time we're going to do a 40 pixel brush. So we'll change this over to 40. Enter. And set the opacity is going to stay the same. But we are going to change the value here to lighten. Okay. Now what we'll do is actually paint on the building. And notice what happens here. Whatever's dark becomes light, because you can still see those light gaps. They're kind of like reflections over there. And notice that if I paint over here, really nothing's happening because it's already light. You can kind of catch a little bit. Let me undo that. But basically we want to paint on the dark stuff. So if you paint a little bit outside that, that's okay. Ooh, we got a little bit on the green. So we'll go down here into some of these buildings down here. A little bit smaller brush going on over here. And I might do some building stuff down here as well. Don't don't like that when I cut into that tree a little bit. I'm going to presume some of this stuff is building stuff too. You can hear we've got people over here. Okay, let's hit Command 0, see what that looks like. Okay, not bad. I'll hit Command D to deselect this. And let's save where we are. Command S. Okay, double checking my notes here. Now we're going to work on this background. In fact, we'll go back to the book just for a minute so you can see that what's going to happen here. We're going to put some stars in the sky. So I'm going to run you through some procedures to make that look even cool. There it is. You can see what's going on there. Now, to do that, we're going to go to our background. Now, I'm going to solo this. So I'm going to hold down the Option key or Alt on the Windows so that we only get this one layer. Now we're going to turn this one layer into a smart object. Okay, so I'm going to right click or control click on the Mac and convert to a smart object. If you turn it into a smart object, that's great. And I think I'm going to relabel this as well. We'll call this capital and mall. Cool. So now I'm going to double click on the layer thumbnail itself and it gives me a warning. After editing the contents, choose File, then Save to commit the changes. Those changes will be reflected upon returning to this working file. Okay? And what that means is, keep an eye on what's going on here. We've only got one tab open, right? Now we've got two. So essentially what Photoshop did was it created a new document. Now you notice also that this is called a .psb. PSD is Photoshop document. PSB, oddly enough, stands for Photoshop Big. Which is a special format for creating very large files. Why we had to go to a big file? This isn't a terribly big file, so I don't know why we had to do that, but this is the procedure when you work with smart objects. Essentially what we're going to do is make some changes here, save the document, and then those changes will show up over here in the other one that has all of our layers. Okay? That's all. It's actually pretty easy. So first thing we're going to do is, let's see, we've already done that. Let's select the sky. And this brush is entirely too small for the job. So just a quick click and drag. And it gets everything and it even gets a lot of this Capitol building jazz down here. So we're going to have to do a little bit of editing down here. Okay. Obviously now my brush is way too big, so I'm going to hit the bracket keys a few times. There we go. And if you recall, when we use the any sort of selection-based tool, that we can hit the Option key to subtract. So obviously I want to subtract this building here, and we'll subtract some areas over there and continue on with this. And this doesn't have to be like super precise because we're not going to get this close to this, but oops, undo, try that again. Okay. And we'll take this stuff out. And I'm going to get a little bit more precise there because this is probably about as close as we're going to get. Get a smaller brush, okay, and still continue on removing selection ants from this. Okay. Pretty happy with that. All right. So quick run over to Quick Mask. How does that look? Looks pretty good. Oh, there's a little bit more sky or a building I could get over there. Let's see how bad this is. Okay, just a little bit of subtraction there. Get that business there. Maybe pick up a little bit more sky there. Okay, yeah, I goofed up a little bit. Could be worse. All right. Close enough for government work. Cool. Quick run into Quick Mask. Looks great. Good enough. Cool. Okay. So the next thing we want to do here is to apply the Refine Edge. Now, if you recall, we did that on the chapter 6 guy. Now, let's go to Refine Edge. And let's see here. We want to do smoothing is going to be set to 25. I might as well just type this in, 25. Okay, tab to the next thing here, which is feather. Feather is going to be set to 30. Shift edge is going to be -20. I'm sorry, oh, that wasn't contrast. I'm sorry. Shift edge, didn't I say? -20. There we go. Okay, so it really softens things out on our edge. And click OK. Now, all we did there was really we changed the marching ants. So if I hit Quick Mask, you'll see how soft it got there. That's okay. It works out nice. See, we didn't have to get that precise down there in the beginning. Okay, let's hit D to change our values back to deselect. I'm sorry, default values. And I'm also going to hit X. Okay. Oh, you know what? One other thing. Now, the book walks you through this to tell you how to save marching ants. We really don't need it for this particular project, but I should tell you, in the fairness sense, that there's another thing you can do. So let's say it took you, a long time to create your selection like we just did here. Sometimes selections do take a long time. There's a way to save these selections so that you can reuse those selections over again. They're called channels. Now, if you go over here and click on this, these are color-based channels. This is basically how Photoshop understands color internal to Photoshop. They understand grayscale values of red, green, and blue, and they put it all together for us in a one big old composite RGB channel. Okay, we don't really care about this. What we want to do is create a new, it's called an alpha channel. And what it does, it's just a place to save marching ants. So here's one way to do it. We go to the selection menu, because it's a selection, right? And I'm going to save this selection. And we'll call it something clever like sky. And then click OK. And there's a little mask there. It looks just like a layer mask, right? And I could basically get rid of my marching ants here by hitting Command D, so that goes away. And now I can go back here to reload and say I want to use the sky, and click OK, and it turns it back into marching ants. So basically, this kind of channel, at this point this is an alpha channel, not a color channel. This alpha channel is a way to save your marching ants. I'm going to deselect this one more time, Command D. You can also do something like this. I could drag this thing down to the marching ant icon, and it creates marching ants again. So anyway, we've got our saved alpha channel. We've converted our values back to black and white is in the foreground. Cool. So what we want to do here is create a new layer on top of this background. Remember, marching ants are layer independent. So you can create marching ants from any layer, and then you can use those same marching ants on a new layer, which is exactly what we're doing here. Okay. So we want to paint some stars up here, like what's going on in this book. Okay. Now, white is our color. That's not a problem. But the brush shape, none of these brush shapes are going to cut it. Okay. We need to go to a different library. So remember we talked about libraries in class? Well, these are assorted brushes. This is what we want. And then it asks me, do you want to replace the current brushes, which is this set over there, and you want to replace them or add to them? Well, we'll just add to them. Now we'll scroll down, and we're looking for the star brush right there. Now it's really tiny here. We're going to set this up, I believe it's 300? Yep. Okay. Enter. And let's see, we've already done the new layer, and we're roughly going to just do a simple click here and there, and I'm going to just, let's see, maybe put one kind of down close to the building, maybe drop one over here. It doesn't have to be exactly straight up. I'm just going to lay a few of these things out. Oh, I didn't like that last one. That's a little bit better. Okay. That's it. We've painted on the new layer. You can label the stars if you want. Nifty. But we're not quite done yet. I'm going to remove the marching ants, Command D, and we're going to change a few things here. So we want to reduce the opacity of this layer. So I'll drag this down here to about 50%. And change, I believe it's to overlay, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So now do you notice that you can actually see kind of the sky gradient? It's very light down there. It gets a little bit more saturated and darker up here. And those stars take on that color value. That's what we want. Okay, let's run back here to this. Notice there's no changes back on our original file. Well, like we said before, this is a new document that's connected to the working document. All we're going to do is save this. It's been saved. Now when we go back here, the changes are here as well. This is what we want. This is all good. Okay, so let's turn all of these layers back on. And looking pretty nifty. We're going to apply some filters now. So let's see, on the Capital Mall, so on this layer down here, we're going to go to the filter menu and go down to filter gallery. And we're going to go to artistic, so we'll close the sketch one. And artistic, we're going to go to cutout, that one there. And I guess we'll have to zoom out on this. Let's click this button a few times. So you'll notice that what this does is it makes the artwork that we started with from a photograph start to look like cutout paper. Okay, but it doesn't look quite right yet. We're going to change some of these settings here. So let's see. We're going to go to 8 on the number of levels, 4 edge simplicity, and edge fidelity is going to be 3. Okay, so we get a little bit more detail going on in there, which is really nice. And I'm going to click OK for now. And look what happens down here. It added a new filter gallery, and it's basically created a different layer down here. It's kind of like layer styles, but this is the benefit of having a smart object. Is normally, if you do a filter of some kind, it actually works destructively on your layer. Okay, but this is a smart object. So now even the filters are smart, and they act like layer styles. So essentially, we can turn this cutout thing we just put on here, we can turn it off. There's the original layer. You can turn it back on. You can add multiple kinds of layers in here too. Okay. In fact, let's click on Filter Gallery again, and we'll add another thing there. What are we looking for? We're looking for film grain. I believe it's in the same window here. Now what I want to do is add a new effect. Because if I click now, it'll just change the cutout to a film grain. But what I want to do is add a new effect here. Now on this one, I'll go to film grain, and we'll set the settings here for grain is 2, tab, highlight area 6, and intensity is going to be 1, I believe. Okay, and what's really neat now is you can start to see some pop out color that I don't think we saw before. Okay, we can also restack these layers, these effect layers. So if I drag film grain down, I can actually place it below cutout, and it changes the look. It just changes the order and arrangement of how these effects are applied, which is pretty cool. Alrighty, let's see. Let's click OK. Nice. And remember, we can turn these things off. There's the original. There's with our film grain and cutout. And this guy over here acts just like a layer mask. So for instance, I'll click on the X key for a minute here and change these things around. Change it back to 100%. So let's say that I didn't want the effect applied to, like the middle here. So I'll just paint it out. And then that shows the original version of the picture, similar to the way a layer mask would work in any other place, actually. Okay, so we'll undo that, Command Z. All right, we're almost done. We're so close to being done. Next, we're going to apply some effects to this. And I know we've done this in class, so this should not be news to you at all. I'll apply on this Washington Monument a drop shadow. So I'll go down here, and drop shadow is the bottom one there. And we'll change a few things. Let's see, we want to do apply a drop shadow. So that is 40% up here, so 40. I'll hit the tab key, and let's see, down here to distance 15. Spread is going to be 9, and size is 9. Okay, and we'll click OK. And if you recall, what we've done before is I want to apply this very same effect to these other two layers, but I don't have to go in and do all the recreation from scratch. I can just take this drop shadow and duplicate it. Very simple. Hold down the Option key, and I'm going to click on the words drop shadow and just drag it to the next layer, and it puts it on there. You can see it over there. And I'll drag this one, again, holding down the Option key, and drag it down there. Very nice. Okay, I just realized something. What we didn't do is we applied a filter here, but we didn't apply any filters on these guys. So I'm going to quickly just go through and apply some sort of filter. So, oh, and we're also going to turn these into smart objects. So I will Option. Uh-oh, we've got a problem. We can't make it a smart object if it's got a layer style going on here, I believe. Let's see. Oh, we can do it here. Okay, wait a minute. There it is. I was just clicking in the wrong place. Convert. 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 Cool. Notice that actually now there is no drop shadow because we created the smart object after the drop shadow was already in place. Okay, so quite honestly, we should have done that drop shadow thing like in a little while, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and do some filtering here. Let's go to Filter Gallery. Oh, you know what? We've already applied the filter there. Let's do this one. Sorry. And we'll do filter again. And so this is going to be the Capitol building. Let's try, we've already done that. I like paint daubs as a general rule. Now that's, ooh, that's kind of fun. That's kind of blurry. If you've ever heard the term painterly, it's kind of like whenever you get a good look at some really great art, you can actually see the brush strokes. You can actually see how the paint builds up and kind of creates blobs, or even specular highlights. The oil paint might be kind of shiny. That's called working painterly. And you can kind of see how that works here. I actually like that very much. I'm going to stick with that one for the paint daubs. And for the Washington Monument, let's see what we've got here. How about, we'll go back to Filter Gallery again because it's so wicked cool. And I'm going to zoom out a bit. There we go. Maybe I'll zoom in so we can see this. By default, it's already doing paint daubs. Let's try something else here. In fact, let's look more at brush strokes, like crosshatch. Here, let's see. If we crank this up, well, I like what's going on down there. You can kind of see what's happening there. Let's see if we can sharpen this up a little bit more. Brings out more texture that way. It's unfortunately making the Washington Monument look like Batman, so that's not too cool. Let's try something else here. Oh, that's kind of fun. Let's see, ink outlines. Oh, let's go with that. In fact, let's see. Not really seeing much of a difference here. Okay, I like that. Brought up the light intensity. I'm going to click OK. Okay, so at this point, this is where we would actually add the drop shadows, but you get that. Alrighty, last thing. I'm going to hit Command 0 here. Okay, I'm fully moved out here. This postcard needs a white border. Now, I don't want to paint a white border on what I've actually got. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some canvas area to this card. So I'm going to go to the Image menu and go to Canvas. Okay, excuse me. And we're we're starting in the center. So basically I'm going to add width and height to this, and it's going to add some at the top and the bottom. This is very simple. We're going to set this one for 7 inches, and this one, I'm going to tab over to this one and go 5 inches, and click OK. And hit Command 0 so you can see where we are now. And we've now got room for a border. Now, obviously, since you see the checkerboard back there, this is going to be, I mean, it's empty. There's no pixel set up this way. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on, well, actually, I'll start here, but I have to drag this down below. We'll create a new layer here and call this one white BG for background. And I'm going to drag this down under the capital and mall. And we're just going to fill this with white. Now, for this, I'm going to switch this back to background. And then the keyboard shortcut to fill with a background color is Command Delete. And that's it. So we'll get rid of the guidelines here. Turn off the guides. We'll clear the guides. Don't need them. And turn off the ruler. And that's it. We'll save this document. And I'll close the original PSB there. And that's it. Let's move on to the next part of the chapter.